Hi guys, this video is for a timing chain on a 2015 Nissan Juke 1.2 Dig T. The first thing you want to do is get the car jacked up, axle stand up under the driver's side, get the driver's wheel off, obviously break the nuts loose before you jack it up if you haven't got an impact driver. Then drop the engine oil, so I've got a drain pan ready. I'm just about to drop the engine oil because when you take the timing case cover off, the oil will leak out if you haven't drained the oil. So I'm going to do those things first. Once we've got the oil out, we're going to put a jack up under the engine. Then we're going to remove the top strut mount, get that out of the way, get the inner arch lining out of the way to give us access. So I'm going to do all of those steps now, and then once that's done I will advise on the next steps. So I've got the wheel lining out of the way. It's a good idea to get this crank bolt loose before you take all the belt off, just to give it some extra weight, mass behind, in order to crack the nut loose. It's a 19mm nut. I've just cracked that one loose already with an impact driver, so I have now got a jack stand under the engine mount, under the sump, in order to remove the top engine mount. So it's 16mm bolts at the top here to be removed, which I'm going to do now. So the engine mount's been removed. I've lowered the engine down slightly. We're now going to remove the auxiliary belt, which is a 16mm right here. Going to get a socket on there, release the tension off this belt, and then remove the belt. So I've got the belt undone. You just need to put the applied tension to the tensioner that way, then it gives you enough play to remove the belt. Obviously take note of how the belt's been fitted or how the belt's routed before you remove it. I've taken a photo of that. Belt's out of the way, so now we can go ahead and start removing the crankcase bolts, the timing case cover bolts. So there's one little 8mm on the top here that needs undoing, and then the rest are pretty much all around, but we'll go through them all. I think they're all 8mm actually, or 8 or 10s. Let's have a look. 10s and 8s, so we'll get those all undone now. I've already drained the oil obviously, so I'll start removing these bolts. So I've started with the top fasteners. I've jacked the engine up as far as it will go. I've disconnected I believe they're the timing sensors on each side here, camshaft position sensors, that side and that side, disconnected those connectors, pulled the harness up out of the way, kept it out of the way, disconnected this little vacuum pipe here, and I've started with the 13mm bolts on the front. So there's one there, there's one there, there's one there, there's a couple underneath as well. Once those are all undone, I'll lower the engine down and do the bottom ones. So I've got all the top bolts out. All these 13mm, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in total. I've got the water pump bolts out, those little 10mm. There's a little bracket on the side here that needs to come off, 2 10mm, and then there's obviously the 8mm that goes in the top. So that's all done now. I'm dropped it down, and we're now going to do the 10mm, and then we'll get the crank pulley off as well. So I've got all the bolts out. There's also 3 little 8mm bolts in the middle there that need to come out. Once you've got them all out, you can just get a little crowbar, pry bar, whatever you can in there, pry it open, and we've got access to the timing chains. Now I'm just going to manoeuvre. I think I'm going to have to come up a bit with the engine in order to get this timing cover out. So there's the timing chain cover removed. It just lifts up and out that way once you've jacked the engine up a bit. I'm just having a look now to see if there's any significant damage on this one. There's nothing really noticeable. I mean, the upper sprockets, the teeth on there look quite worn. Not sure if you can see. I'm going to have a good look at those and see what they're meant to look like, but I don't think they're meant to look like that. That may well be an issue. Why that we've got a cam correlation fault on this vehicle between inlet and exhaust, so I'm not sure if it's the chain or these two sprockets. If it's these two sprockets, I'm in trouble because I haven't ordered these. I'm trying to get away without doing them, so we'll have a bit of further examination. I'm also doing the rocker cover on this vehicle, so I might just remove the rocker cover in a sec anyway, but that's a separate job. I think the cam chain might well have been done on this before. The silicone doesn't look original. I think it may well have been done before, and it's got a cheap type. Well, I just recognise that tensioner. I think it's been done with a cheap kit. Anyway, we'll get it all timed up in position, and then we'll get the chain off. I'll show you how to get it into the correct position. And then, yeah, I'm also doing the oil pump on this one as well, so sump's got to come off as well. I do apologise, people. I don't know exactly where I left off. It's been a little while and I've been extremely busy, but we are finally back on this. The last point, I think I just got this timing cover off, and I was about to take the sump off because I'm doing the oil pump on this one as well. So when you're doing this job, I would recommend doing the sprockets, top sprockets, which we're doing. Obviously the timing chain, bottom sprockets, tensioners, guides, and oil pump all at the same time, and obviously water pump too. We're going to be removing the water pump shortly. I've got a new water pump coming this afternoon. I've got the new exhaust sprocket on, just about to remove the inlet sprocket and put the replacement inlet sprocket on. I've had to take the rocker cover off because I wanted to see where the valves were, etc., and I also had to do the rocker cover gasket anyway, so it's just made it a bit easier. Various screwdrivers in to make sure that I've got top dead centre and I knew what was going on with the engine. All the cam chain followers and guides are all been removed. I have finally got a diagram of for this engine, for the timing chain, so I know exactly how it's all meant to line up. It's the same on the Dacia Sandero 0.9 and the 1.2 Renault basic engines. It's all the same. You've got to line the marks up. You have to get the exhaust groove mark lined up with the top. You have to get this inlet cam groove lined up slightly off centre to the right. I will try and include a photo of the diagram just so you can see. And then you've got marks on the cam chain. If you can see those orange marks, 1, 2, 3, you have to get, obviously you need cylinder 1 in top dead centre. Then you get your first painted mark aligning with this groove, second painted mark on the chain aligning with that groove, and then the third painted mark, you can't see because I've put the flywheel back on, but there's a little arrow on the bottom crankshaft pulley, crankshaft cog sprocket, that there's a little arrow pointing downwards. That's top. When that's down, that's top dead center. So the timing actually slipped when I was removing this, trying to get this into position, so I just gave up, removed the whole lot, and then manually maneuvered the crankshaft and the exhaust the inlet camshaft, the exhaust camshaft by hand, manually set it by hand, using a 23mm spanner. So yeah, so that's the point we're at now. All the mating surfaces on the sump has been cleaned, so that's ready to go back on. Obviously, I don't need to tell anyone how to remove a sump. You know, I think there are 8mm or 10mm, and it's siliconed on, so you've got to be gentle, pry it apart, and then obviously make sure you clean it up and re-silicone it. Same with the timing case cover, which we have over here. Obviously, I am changing also these plastic seals, changing these rubber/plastic seals on the solenoids just to make sure that we've got no leaks. Should really be changing that as well, but I haven't got that. I might try. I think is that in with the service kit? I don't think it is. I should have potentially ordered these. They're not too hard. It's got some malleableness in there still, so should be okay. There's the old oil pump removed, and obviously rocker cover gasket's going to get changed as well. So I will carry on doing the work I'm doing here. I'll get this one off, and then I'll show you how we line up the cam chain marks on the cam sprockets, get the oil pump back in, get the tensioners on and guides, etc., and then we'll turn it over by hand manually you know, a few full rotations just to make sure that everything's smooth and not colliding. But I don't like turning these over because with no oil pressure, because the chain jumps sometimes, so you've got to lock the tensioner out, because otherwise the chain will jump. So yeah, I'll leave it there for now. I'll carry on filming once we're putting it back together. And sorry, just to explain why we're doing these, if you can look at the wear marks on the inlet cam, see on the teeth, clear, big, dirty grooves in there like teeth. It's like it's almost serrated compared to the new one, which are completely smooth and flush, how it should be. So if we just changed it, there is a camshaft correlation fault on this vehicle between camshaft inlet and exhaust. So there's a slight bit of play between the two. It's obviously can be caused by a stretched chain, but also if we'd have just changed the chain, there would have still been a correlation fault, because you can see those grooves, that's worn material. So there's more play between this one and this one now. So there's a little bit of slack. So that's going to cause a correlation fault. I don't know if it's that sensitive or not. I believe it is, but that couple of little, you know, microns almost of play, the vehicle will pick it up. The engine management system will pick it up. So yeah, that's why we are doing the whole lot all in one go, including the oil pump, because this car had low oil pressure fault as well. Oil pressure light would flicker at idle occasionally. But after an oil change and service, that almost completely went away, but not completely. So I want to put a new oil pump on there just to be safe. Check the oil strainer, that's all clean and clear. We'll get it all back together, and then yeah, fingers crossed this correlation fault should be gone and this engine saved, because it's almost going to have to, you know, customers are almost going to have to get rid of the car or put a new engine in. So yeah, hopefully this is going to do it. But that's why I would always recommend doing all the sprockets together. These are expensive. Could only get these from Nissan. These are about £400, £300 for the pair, something like that. One's more expensive than the other for some weird reason, but yeah, they're quite expensive, and they can only come from Nissan. So we've had to get these. Yeah, 500. Yeah, we've got bolts as well. It was the total. Yeah, we've got new bolts, and obviously we've got the seals as well. So yeah, it was 500 and something quid, 570 quid I think it was, all in, or 600 quid all in, something like that. So yeah, we'll leave it at that for now, and I'll speak to you once we're putting it back together. Right, apologies there. I got distracted, and I've ended up putting half the engine back together and forgetting to show you how to time up the chain with the sprockets, etc. I've obviously already timed it up, turned it over by hand a few times. It's all okay. I have, however, set it out on the floor here so that I can explain clearly and easily, visually, how it goes on and how you mark it. So initially you have to have the piston number 1 in top dead center, which means this little bolt on the crankshaft, this little arrow on the crankshaft is pointing downwards, and this paint mark on the chain lines up with it. Then we come along to the exhaust sprocket camshaft, and there we have the paint mark lined up with this groove. This is the mark. You only have that groove. You have these little grooves, but you only have that big groove in one spot on both of them. You have this one in that position with the paint mark lined up. Then you have the intake in that position with the paint mark lined up. As long as it's in that position, you are fine. And as long as cylinder number 1 is at TDC, top dead center, which it will be once you get it into top dead center by aligning this markup with the bottom of the crank. So that's it essentially. Obviously change your tensioner, change your guides, which we've done. We've got a new oil pump in there as well. There's the old one. So yeah, I'll get this put back together. Obviously the installation of everything's the same as the removal, but just the reversed. And yeah, I know it's not been a very clear video from start to finish, and I'd usually show more detail, but I've been really busy this week. It's been flat out, and this is actually Nissan quote this as 17.5 hours work. Well, that's without the valve cover and anything else we've done to it. There's 2 seize bolts I had to deal with as well, so it's taken a lot longer than expected, plus obviously got other jobs on as well. So yeah, this is done. Well, it's not done, it's nearly done. I'm going to finish it off now. Once it's all back together, I'll fire the car up and film that, and then end the video there. One very important thing I forgot to mention is silicone. Once you've had the sump off, which we've had, and you know, obviously put it back on, you know, you need to make sure you silicone it very nicely. Make sure it's sealed, clean it all beforehand, and silicone on the slightly bit too much there, my mistake, but rather too much than too little, unless it's going into the engine, you don't want that. But no, there was just, that's just the excess that squeezed out. There was just enough on there. I didn't overdo it too much. I need to get that belt back on. But yeah, very important, don't forget to silicone both sides, clean it as quick as best you can before you put silicone. Clean the crankcase side, engine case side, clean the timing cover side, brake cleaner, clean rags, make sure it's absolutely, you know, completely degreased, and only then silicone it, otherwise you will get leaks. So yeah, important part I just forgot to mention. Again guys, terribly sorry, it's been a rather hectic week. I don't know where I left off on this video. This is the worst cam chain video I've ever done. However, I'm hoping it's been of some use to people that are watching it. As you can see, this one's done now, everything's back together. Coolant, we did the water pump obviously on this one as well, so we've topped the coolant up, just checking for air locks now. Oil's done, new oil filter. This had oil pressure faults at idle, the light would flash occasionally, oil pressure light, that's gone because we've changed the oil pump. The timing the camshaft correlation fault between camshaft A and camshaft B has gone. We've cleared the light, that's gone, and the faults also, we've just done a rescan and the fault's still not there, so that's all good. Because the chain was completely stretched, cogs were completely worn, sprockets, sorry. And I think that covers it all. So yeah, obviously remember to turn it over by hand before we fire it up. We turn it over by hand, and yeah, this one's done and ready to go. So I hope this has been of some help to people, and yeah, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.